transmissions detected.
Kill them all.
Hello my friends. Today I document the drift. That's the name given for the unexplainable layer of debris that sits on the very top layers of the strata from the Great Flood. It is physical evidence of the events written in Revelation. Now the earth shows us evidence of several natural disasters that have happened in the past. However, what was responsible for the drift cannot be explained because it was not deposited by natural forces or anything we currently know. After studying this layer for a while, along with what modern geology claims that the other layers are, I saw just how some of Revelation could very well be interpreted as a past event that's already happened. Now, I won't be giving any Bible lessons or denying any prophecies or anything like that. It's just my take on it. I'm only recording what was written and told to us by people long ago that they felt was important enough to pass down and what we were supposed to remember. At the very least, it's just good to know another group's story just in case. Like their version of things may confirm your version. You never know. So what I found out about this layer and what it was that allegedly was responsible for putting it there is just plain crazy. Now I read a few books about the weather and comets lately, and it led me down a path to one called Ragnarök, the Age of Fire and Gravel. It was published in 1887 by Mr. Igneous Donnelly. It's worth the read. In this book, he and other scientists theorized that comets and other celestial bodies could affect our Earth in very catastrophic ways. Like, keep in mind, in their model of the universe, we and all the planets and stars fly through infinite space. Okay? Keep that in mind. So, in the book, the theory is that a comet or celestial body must have hit the Earth at some point after the flood. If a comet or gigantic asteroid, whatever it was, were to strike our planet or get too close to us, and if their model was correct, of course it would surely cause chaos on an unprecedented scale. Now, for those of us that don't believe we live on a ball of water, there is an explanation for these celestial bodies and their motions. And one of them is they must be inside this enclosure with us. The stars are in the firmament, right? They pass right through the stars or right with them. So wouldn't a comet be in that space too? Yeah, I would think so. But it isn't about the shape of our world this time. It really doesn't matter, like, for the sake of the argument, you know. So what's the big deal about, you might ask? What does Revelation and a layer of rock have to do with one another? Well, there's a mystery in the ground below us that's still unsolved today. We live on top of this layer. We bury our dead in it. It's what half the world walks on and plants their food in. I mean, it ranges from 5 feet to many hundreds of feet in thickness. This drift consists of rocks, boulders, gravel, and clay. And it rests, like I said, on top of the stratified layers that we find all over the world. The ones laid down by the great flood of Noah's time. Now, we do not have an official record of this event, not one that's accepted by mainstream, but we do have a good idea of what transpired because many different people witnessed it, and many different tongues tell the same stories and legends, more or less. You just have to kind of get what they're saying. Now, the drift, as I said, is very mysterious because it's not found everywhere on Earth, just in certain places. Half of the Earth. It's found in America from New York all the way to South America, into the Gulf from the eastern seacoast, everything west till about Nevada, Utah, Canada, and California doesn't have it. Like you guys got away with that one. But most of the U.S. does. It's found also in most of Europe, up to Greenland, Scotland, Africa, but that's about the boundary. Basically, one side of the world if you was to split it up. Oddly enough, the drift is not found anywhere in the Pacific, in Asia, nowhere in Russia, Siberia, like not Canada, anywhere in the Arctic Circle whatsoever. That seems weird, though. Since glaciers deposited this drift, where are they at? But it's not there, so obviously they did not. Where the glaciers are at, or were at, no drift can be found, which means the theories of its origin are wrong. It did not get placed by glaciers, because that's the scientific theory, that it was deposited like this rock, gravel, and dirt, but put there by slow-moving glaciers. Well, what makes this one layer so out of place is that geologists know that's not what happened now. They were mistaken, because the rock and sediment in the drift that it contains does not match any other. It seems as if it was laid down very suddenly from above, not in waves or slowly by advancing ice, almost as if dump trucks dumped it. It has all the characteristics of just being thrown in there. Now, all at once, basically, in the matter of hours is what I'm getting at. Now, Mr. Donnelly and other scientists explained that there were forces present on a scale that is unfathomable for us to conceive. It would have been a terrifying thing to live through. Remember, this cataclysm was after the Great Flood and what reset the world in the Dark Ages timeline. Because when this comet struck or this mountain was hurled into the sea, whatever it was, the heat of something like that generated would have evaporated trillions of gallons of water in an instant. It would have created enormous clouds full of precipitation. This large rock, if you will, allegedly hit so hard and with such a violent force, they said it cracked the foundations of the earth open. Well, it's no legend. Under close examination of the bedrock, it appears that something did just that, and we can see the fractures radiating out in all directions like a piece of glass that got hit with a stone. The cracks are visible. They can be seen with our own eyes. They're there. Now, the legends from back then say an enormous void opened up under the impact site and half the waters of the Atlantic poured directly down into the bowels of the earth. And after a few moments, it was all expelled back out with an enormous explosion of steam, rock, gravel, debris, fire, and poisonous vapors. This, according to Mr. Donnelly, would have caused a series of events like no other. And with that much moisture in the air at one time, it would have immediately started heat transfer on an extreme scale. It would have cooled the air quite fast. Within hours or even minutes in some places, it would have started snowing. It would have been blizzard-like conditions. In the pleasant 75-degree northern areas like in the Arctic Circle, it got the worst of the ice and snowfall. That's why we find animals in suspended animation almost, in perfect preservation actually. They died and were covered up on the same day, some with food still in their mouths and stomachs. Therefore, it was no slow-moving ice or climate change that did it to them. Now, the rocks and gravel that would have been ejected into the air would have rained down for miles in every direction, throwing gigantic boulders and rocks vast distances. And that is the drift of debris that we find that science has no explanation for. Now, all of this is in the book if you want to read about it, and it'll give you every exact detail, But in many legends, which bear more truth than history nowadays, think about that, they detail this event in several languages, many religious texts, too. How many times have you heard the same exact line about the sun and the moon being darkened and the stars falling from the sky? Too many, right? But we're led to believe that these events that are written about are set to take place at a future time. Biblical scholars claim they could have not yet happened. Well, that's where the timeline of our history may have been tampered with a little, don't you think? Like during the years we call the Dark Ages, someone made up a ridiculous story for it, and the people who lived there at the time, or in it. That's when this cataclysm happened, is the Dark Ages, but isn't that suspicious that that's when it falls in? And how no records were kept, during that time? Why? You build such magnificent things, but use the bathroom on the floor? You don't keep records? How strange is that? So we're told by Jesus and his disciples what would happen when he returned. all the signs to look for, but all of them were to take place only one time. So some argue about the temple, other things that they say prove Christ hasn't returned yet, but considering who that information comes from, it could have very well been completely false and made up too. So trusting the narrative of the mainstream in their history books for one specific thing, but then dismissing all the rest of it because you don't trust them, just seems unwise to do. Now, if you have undeniable proof, I get it. But if you don't, they'll never take anyone's word for something. I mean, like if you don't know what color the sky is, like to be 100% sure, go check for yourself, because you'll find out some crazies will take advantage of your lack of knowledge about the sky. Something so simple. And there's no telling what they'll tell you about it, right? You'll just believe anything if you do that, including religion. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. It goes for everything you come into contact with, you know. If someone knows that you don't know, they're going to tell you just anything. When I looked at the biblical text, it seemed like someone wasn't being very honest in our modern era, that's for sure. If Jesus was to tell you that you would not get old and die before I return, then you'd consider his words golden, right? But no, we're told, sorry, it's been 2,000 years and he still hasn't shown up yet. That would make what he promised untrue, would it not? Oh, some people try to just beat around it, you know, but no. Since we know he isn't a liar, obviously one of us is lying. And instead of worrying about the little things, the wording, wouldn't there be evidence that he did or didn't come back yet? Would there not be something to clear the air of confusion, like maybe the earth would show some cataclysm that happened? Well, the events during the Dark Ages that we have no record of, but the ones we do have kind of fit the bill. The legends and stories passed down that were omitted from history could have very well been the millennial reign of Christ. Anyone that says that it couldn't have been, well, you're kind of saying you don't believe them, but you do believe them. So it's like, right? To clear the air of confusion, you would think that we would look at everything. Well, the accounts that were written coincide with the bowls of wrath in Revelation. And I mean, is it a coincidence? Maybe. The drift has all the characteristics you would expect. Say if a mountain struck the earth. When the 7 bowls were poured out by the angels, several different events began to happen, and they're not good. The first bowl poured out brings painful sores upon mankind. Well, this has happened before. The Aztecs wrote about the rain of burning dust that caused sicknesses and big sores on their skin. The Egyptians, the same thing. The Native Americans, right? The Greek, the Norse, Romans, Europeans, everyone. How many times have boils and sores been reported? Too many, right? Well, a comet would have caused all sorts of ash to fall. It would have caused serious skin issues, depending on what it's made of. The second bowl, the sea becomes blood. Every living soul in it dies. The Norse Ragnarök says the sea boiled with fire, blood covered the waves. Aztec, Native Americans note this happening as well. A comet or rock the size of a mountain, if it were to hit the sea, would also boil the waters into vapor, kill damn near everything in it. It would have definitely bittered the waters. The third bowl, rivers and springs become blood, or they are bittered. So basically the ocean, the rivers, and like every bit of water we have on earth becomes messed up, right? In Peru, old legends say that their rivers ran red and were poisoned after fire fell from the sky. The Aztec scrolls speak of poisoned waters and famine one day. Native American tribes, same thing. Europe, a comet would done the same. It would have deposited vast amounts of minerals and dust in the air. Iron could be one that it could ruin the water. The fourth bowl, the sun scorches men with fire. Well, that happened before. Native Americans tell of a time the sun came so close to the earth that it burned the world. Okay. In India, the ancient Hindu texts describe the same. The Norse story also tells of the sun getting hotter. It's recorded by many different people long ago, and the sun all of a sudden became intense for a short time. The Native Americans even speak of a time when a comet was so close to the earth that it passed between the earth and the sun. Go figure that. And they said how the comet tails could dance and you could see it in the heavens, and they would dance and flutter like fire behind it. Well, if it's millions of miles long, yeah, something's going on, right? Now, the fifth bowl, darkness covers the land. The Norse said at Ragnarok the sun was swallowed and the stars vanished. Aztec myths say 4 old suns died one day in darkness, and the last one is all we have left. That's scary to think of, right? I'm not saying any of this is true, okay, by the way. I'm just reading, some old legends and historical texts, okay? Now, Chinese chronicles reported once that the sun didn't shine for months. All their crops failed, people starved. We've heard this before. In Europe, same thing. The Native Americans, Indians, same thing. Just like Revelation said. I mean, a comet or mountain, if it was cast into the sea, would also blot out the sun for a little while, would it not? Yes. Now, the sixth bowl, the great river Euphrates, dries up. We see that today. Apparently, it's dried up many times because once the water went away this time, we saw there were buildings there and structures. So, yeah, Greek writers said that their rivers disappeared in one day. It's been recorded all over the world. And a comet would have disrupted rivers and streams and possibly even entirely dried them up. Norse Ragnarok says the earth shook apart. Fire and giant stones rained from heaven. The Aztecs said huge flaming rocks ended a world age. Now, why would they remember that? Hesiod in Greece wrote of burning stones falling from the sky. And the Hopi, they said the world shook as stones of fire fell from heaven. Every culture keeps the same memory, Revelation says every island fled away. The mountains weren't found, and there fell upon men great hail out of heaven, every stone about the weight of a talent. And men blasphemed God because of the plague of hail, for the plague thereof was exceedingly great. They say that they find in this drift some rocks weighing 4 million pounds just were thrown there from God knows where. And the seventh bowl, that's the finale. It's done there. A voice from heaven actually comes out and says it's done. After those bowls, Revelation doesn't stop. Fire just still comes from heaven one last time, and it consumes the armies of darkness that dared to come fight God at a place called Armageddon. Well, I guess that's when the armies of earth all get together for this final battle. It seems like they're preparing for that now, doesn't it? But after those bowls are ended, it's just not good. There'll be no more mountains because they all melt like wax. We don't have to worry about the oceans anymore either because they all evaporate. One final fire, the cleansing before a new heaven and earth. This one, I guess, will rest for a while. Who really knows? But scary to think of, Now, the drift. It was placed there by an enormous explosion that took this world long ago. It's almost as if a mountain truly did hit this earth. And if it did, it explains the reason for the debris found in the drift. It also explains all the accounts we have about the loss of life, all of the different plagues and the different things that befell us. Well, we can see it with our own eyes. We know it happened, but what do you do? Either way, this place ends in fire, and that sucks the most. If you do your research, you find that a cataclysmic event no doubt happened many, many times. Whatever it may have been, if it was purposefully ignored by modern historians, I don't know what to take of it. The people that perished that day were also omitted from the record. We don't even know who that was. With all the different stories and legends, maybe even Atlantis was taken because it did hit the Atlantic Ocean. Now, add with all of that the geology that we know exists. It unfortunately tells us a truth that we do not care to hear. I get it. Again, it does seem like something was hit the ocean, The earth was rent asunder, as they say. Never before or after has it been so violently shaken and disturbed. And we're told that's supposed to go down again? Are we sure about that? If Revelation already happened, it would explain not only the drift, but everything else that makes no sense. Like the orphan trains, the new arrivals found in the big cities, all decked out wearing the same church dress clothes, like they only had a couple to choose from. And who are these people anyway? Who were all the children? We have never been given a straight answer that made any sense for any of it. It would also explain the reasoning that we have boundaries we can't cross. 66 north and 66 south. Those who lived through the millennial kingdom, wouldn't they totally distance themselves from all of us? I would. If it was true, I'm just saying, they would have technology like we have never seen. No way could they live in peace with us nearby. There's no way. I mean, maybe it's who spanked Admiral Byrd and sent him packing, you know? They made up some nonsense out of embarrassment because they didn't want to tell anybody, yeah, it's the Millennial Kingdom people. They just beat the hell out of us and sent us packing. It might be the last stand for some inhabitants of Earth. You never know, you know? Is this the little season we're in today? Or is Jesus late? That's it. I honestly don't know. And who can really be sure? I mean, I have faith, so what does it really matter if you think about it? Does it make anything better or worse? That's for sure. It only means that the show's almost over. For all life on this earth, I mean, afterwards, every spirit of man, woman, and child and beastie that's ever lived will stand before the Most High and the angels to be judged. I say the drift can be just what it is, a mystery. I don't know about you, but I wasn't a saint during my time here. I totally wish I could do it all again and be better, but I can't. What's done is done. And so I wouldn't, you know, wish too much for all this. You know, we have to ask God for forgiveness and mercy and just continue to be excellent to each other. That's just what I needed to say, you know. My love to you all. I'm Wild Dog, and I am out of here.
Be excellent to each other.
Sorry.
You're close, you're integral to the project.
Sterile.
What you looking at, man?
Oh, no, nothing. I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at his neck, man.